but he prepared me for him not being around with me physically. And he told me that we will meet wherever possible, either here or spiritually. And even if I'm here or if I'm not here physically, I'm always going to be with you. And I used to feel like, why is he talking like this? Like, so when the day came and when I got the news that he had a heart attack, I was absolutely shocked. I think his exit was also very much too much on the point. Like when I started understanding what my soul mission is, that was the exact point he exited. So it's like his role was done. He was not needed anymore. So and somehow I have this guidance coming to me that his work physically with you was done. So his need was over. But now he's going to help you from the spirit. So if he was here, most of his time would go into the metrics and the karmic contracts, which was not required. So he exited. And now he is there with his full soul energy, guiding me from the spirit or being with me. And that I completely understand now. I have fully accepted that. It took me a lot of time to even come to this acceptance.
Hi, this is Akanksha. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. If you resonate with me, please like, comment, and share. Welcome to Multidimensional Soul podcast and a talk show. On this show, we talk about deep spiritual and mystical experiences of people which we normally shy away talking about. We are more than our physical body, we are spiritual beings on a human journey, and we discuss how a soul exists on multiple dimensions. We discuss science, technology, and spirituality point of views and perspectives on this show. Our purpose is to open our minds to limitless possibilities and our hearts to love and shine the light within bright. Our guest today is Pradnya Pandit. Pradnya is an artist, an author, a writer, mentor, and a twin flames coach. And she's been relentlessly helping people, holding their hands, people who are dealing with their pain, trauma, and confusion. She provides guidance and support to those who are on a journey of spiritual transformation, and she assists them in opening their hearts and shifting to higher consciousness. Pradnya has done bachelor's in advertising and she's done her master's in visual communication design from IIT Bombay. She worked with MNCs and she was having a flourishing career in UX design in IT. Later on, she shifted to Dubai and then she worked as a creative director with quite a few international advertising agencies and publishing houses. She's also worked as a filmmaker and then eventually she started her own branding studio. Later on, things started shifting for her after her spiritual awakening aggressively in 2011. After her awakening, she started writing about her experiences about twin flames, spirituality, and awakening on Quora in 2016. And shortly, she was recognized as a Quora top writer and the most viewed writer in topics of twin flames and spirituality. Currently, she has crossed over 76 million views on Quora. She started her YouTube channel in 2020 and then she published her first book in 2023, which became a number one bestseller. She conducts private sessions, group sessions for those who are stuck spiritually or on the twin flames journey. So I've always had this wish for a long time to have a conversation with a twin flames expert. Nowadays, twin flames is so much talked about across the world, and some think that it's a trend, some think it's a fad. But trust me, I can speak from personal experience that it's a spiritual path or a journey, and it's not for the faint of heart. It's a complex path that involves going through tower moments, dark night of the soul, and doing a huge amount of inner work. I had a really long conversation with Pradnya. I had to divide this into two parts. In this conversation, we talked about what are twin flames, how they're different from soulmates, why is there sudden or rise in twin flames, how divine feminine and divine masculine awaken through chakras, what is the runner chaser dynamics. Then Pradnya shared about her own difficult twin flame journey, how she met her twin flame, then how her twin flame actually crossed over from this physical world, how she connects with him spiritually, and how he guides her from the other realm. She also talked about her deepest spiritual experiences of visiting other realms, other dimensions, of aliens, and collapsing lower vibration timelines, multiverse. We talked about can you really change your past? How to align with your higher self, discerning between ego and soul, and how to protect ourselves from darker entities, and much more. This is a two-part conversation. The first part is being released on this Friday, and the next part will be released the next week. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with Pradnya, and we uncovered a lot of things, very deep, very spiritual topics. I hope you get guidance or messages from the universe. If you're on ascension or twin flame journey, any spiritual path, do tune in and share in the comments your experiences. We have with us today Pradnya Pandit, who is a twin flame coach. A very warm welcome, Pradnya, on Multidimensional Soul talk show and a podcast. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm very much excited because I think this is my first face-to-face interview because so many times we speak on Zoom and online sessions. So it's a great feeling to meet you personally face to face and talk. So yeah, thank you for inviting.
Okay, awesome. There is a lot of talk going on currently on twin flames and why the twin flames are here, especially as the earth is ascending. So, first, let's understand what are twin flames. My understanding is that twin flames are one soul split into two bodies or two souls of exact core soul frequency. But a twin flame relationship is very different from a soulmate relationship. So, can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think this is a very great question to start with, and I do agree with this specific definition that you are giving that twin flames are uh, one soul in two bodies. But there are different types of theories around the internet. Some people believe that it's one soul in two bodies. Some people feel they are different souls but have the same energy frequency or the soul signature. Some people even believe something else. But somewhere I feel that the bottom line is that uh, it's it's just a theory, whatever the scenario is. As human beings, we are not going to have a complete 100% true knowledge of how the soul and the energies work. So it may be the scenario. There is also this whole thing that twin flames have the same higher self. Some believe that twin flames have different higher selves. So there are two different thought processes, and I don't want to say that this is right or this is wrong, because I think the truth is relative to everybody. So you just receive whatever you are resonating with. If you ask me, I feel twin flames have different higher selves, but their energy frequency is the same. Their signature blueprint of the soul is the same. And that's what makes them each other's higher polarity aspect. Um, or in other words, they are higher polarity aspect of each other. So that's how I would technically define twin flames. When we say they are different than soulmates, because your twin flame is your spiritual partner. Most of the people are highly dramatizing twin flame as a romantic partner, which I don't want to knock out. There is a very great unconditional romantic love that gets activated when you encounter your twin flame. So obviously, I don't want to knock out the aspect of romance or romantic feeling or that feeling of unconditional love towards your twin flame, that's obviously there. But the basic difference between a soulmate and a twin flame is that twin flame is not your conventional romantic partner. There is nothing conventional about twin flames. There is everything, whatever you go through in a twin flame experience will awaken you spiritually. It will trigger your purging process. You would start releasing your density as you are awakening spiritually. So your twin flame becomes your facilitator, or I can say a North Star that becomes a guide in your spiritual journey. And only because that person is existing in your life, energetically or physically or in whichever way, you would start breaking out of the matrix and start your spiritual journey. So twin flame connection is more of a spiritual connection, less of your romance or a fairy tale story. Though you really feel in your heart that this person is your spiritual spouse or your divine counterpart, and it is absolutely true. However, it may not really convert the way your belief system tells you that, oh, this is how you should live life with your twin flame in the physical plane. As human beings, we do have a lot of expectations from our romantic partner, and we have a certain template set in our head that this is how a romantic relationship should look like. This is a perfect relationship. This is the one of my life. And there is too much of idealization according to human life, how we are seeing the society right now. But twin flame experience will break all those belief systems, and somehow it takes you to a different level of realization and different level of understanding that yes, it is your spiritual spouse, but it exposes you to completely different set of experiences and understanding and realization than anybody else in life. So I hope I answered what you were asking.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. And why is it that recently it's come so much to surface that apparently there are theories that there are 144,000 souls chosen to do this kind of work, the ascension work. But why twin flames are so important at this point?
Firstly, when it comes to this 144,000 souls, I personally don't resonate with that theory because somewhere my guidance tells me that this is very dynamic. It's a very dynamic process. Like for example, if there is a war happening on a border of any country, the team of soldiers will be sent according to the need. How much is required at the border, that many soldiers or that much of strategy will be planned, and that's how the war will go on. So when it comes to twin flames coming here as volunteers on this planet, it cannot be decided that, oh, only 144,000 souls are going to be. It's a very dynamic process. So depending upon how much progress is happening, the more volunteers would be sent. So it is very dynamic in nature. It cannot be decided with a specific number. And if you even see the cycle of birth and death, there are so many that are dying, there are so many that are being born. So you can't maintain this specific number in any specific way. If you get stuck to any sort of a number, that means your linear mind is more active and you are not really understanding the dynamism of the energy field. So somewhere I feel we don't need to stick to any sort of a number. But yeah, there are people who believe that, and nothing wrong in having different theories. But if you ask me personally, I don't resonate with that particular idea. That's about the number. Coming to this particular thing that so many twin flames are coming right now. Number one reason, it has become a trend. Okay, so that's a bad part of the story. But everybody and anybody who goes on the internet and starts browsing about their failed relationships or one-sided unrequited love kind of start believing that they are on a twin flame journey. So somewhere I feel many people, I think more than 50-60% that we see around are not really on a twin flame journey. uh, they are just trying to find solace in that label, thinking that they are on some sort of a journey. Such people will eventually realize, and they will even say that, oh, this is all nonsense, because it's not in their experience, it's not like their true soul path. So they would come to this realization that they are not a twin flame. They will also conclude that twin flame is a hoax or some sort of a fad, and it's not a truth. There are only very less percentage of twin flames who are really on a twin flame path. It's very difficult to figure out unless you really speak to the person and understand their spiritual journey. Unless and until you do that, it's very difficult to even figure out who real twin flame is. Why many twin flames are there, or why this whole energy of twin flame or spiritual awakening is right now on this planet, is because we are in the process of ascension, and twin flames are coming here as volunteers. And many people even ask me this question, that what is the difference between a normal spiritual person who is awakening, why I have to be a twin flame to awaken spiritually, why I have to get into a pain of meeting somebody, feeling this unconditional love for them, getting into a depth of dark night and everything, separation and things like that, and then I would awaken. I can just awaken without meeting somebody, right? So what guidance I have received with this particular scenario is that there is something very specific that twin flames are doing, and that is breaking out of love and relationship templates. Any other spiritual person who is normally awakening spiritually is not signed up for understanding unconditional love at that level of intensity. Only a twin flame who meets somebody would actually start learning the lessons of unconditional love. So there is, every soul is having a different trait or a different purpose to be here, and how their spiritual awakening will happen. So for twin flames, there is this specific pattern that you meet somebody, you encounter somebody, that person activates you, you get into the dark night, you get into spiritual awakening. And if you ask me, I have gone through the whole process of releasing all the density, stopping to judge everybody, understanding my true self through the love I feel for somebody. So even when I was married, so the twin flame experience actually helped me to release all the bag and baggage, societal baggage, my ego baggage. Initially, I started running from this connection because I felt that I am married to somebody. So how can I accept this connection? But the way I was guided on my journey, somewhere I slowly started understanding that it's not about societal belief system. It's not about being married or not married. It's not about being loyal. It's not about loyalty. It's not about fear. It's not about what the society tells you. So somehow I started releasing all my belief systems to finally embrace my soul's truth. So imagine that all the collective, all the twin flame collective, if everybody starts going through that specific experience, and if they start releasing their societal fears, societal belief systems, their personal belief systems, you are dismantling the denser matrix, which is specifically related to the relationship templates. All the other people who are spiritually awakening are not necessarily working on relationship templates, but twin flames are specifically working on relationship templates, and that's most required for the collective ascension of this planet. And that's what I feel is the role of twin flames, that unless you break the denser matrix of relationships and love, you are not able to ascend. So it's a very important task, which like many twin flames are voluntary.
Yeah, so breaking the relationship template, breaking all the limiting beliefs and patterns in the society, maybe intergenerational patterns, and unconditional love is the main purpose
Yes.
that twin flames are here for during this ascension process. Now, you use the word volunteers quite a few times. So, when you say volunteer, are these star seeds, are they from some other star systems, planet systems, or are these earthbound souls but more evolved?
Both. I feel there are many twin flames who are not from the earth origin. Um, I don't know, like all the people who are watching this episode, how well versed they are with the work of Dolores Cannon, because she was the one who actually started this whole awareness about star seeds and different types of galactic souls who are coming on Earth as volunteers to help this planet to ascend. So they are obviously more evolved souls than anybody um, being on a normal conscious person on Earth. So there are in twin flames there are definitely star seeds that are coming from different galactic star systems, as well as there are also twin flames who are originated from the Earth. Like they're earthlings, like they are not coming from any star system. Most of their lives they have been on Earth and they don't associate themselves to any other planetary life or civilization. So I would say both. When it comes to the evolution, I think star seeds, you can't really divide the evolutionary level of a soul based on whether they are star seeds or from Earth, because even on Earth there are souls who are very, very evolved. They could be even more evolved than anybody from any other star system. This is what is my understanding. So I also would say that it's not true that most of the times people feel that, oh, if I'm a twin flame, then I'm a star seed. I must be a star seed and I must be a like very evolved soul. Not necessarily. There are levels, different levels of evolution of a soul in twin flames as well.
Okay.
So you are here and you're aware of being a twin flame because you have signed up for something specific as a twin flame in this life. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are highly evolved soul, not necessarily. This is what I feel.
Can you talk a little bit about your twin flame journey? Where did you meet your twin flame? How did that happen?
Okay, I mean, okay, I can talk for hours on that, but I want to make a long story short. I met my twin flame in 1990 when I was in 9th standard, and my twin flame was 2 years older to me. And we used to stay in the same locality. So, like, his house was 5 minutes away from my house. And when we met, we were not even officially introduced to each other in any way. And our first encounter was extremely negative. Like, as we were teenagers, we had this teenage fight because he felt that he was getting some blank calls from some number and he somehow misunderstood that I was the one who was calling him as anonymous person. So he literally started yelling at me on the street that you are such a characterless and spoiled person and how dare you call me and whatever. So after that negative encounter, we did not speak to each other, or we used to see each other every day, but we never spoke to each other. And the whole energy between us was very negative, very tensed. It was very strange. It was very strange in every way because when this incidents happened, after that, I really started feeling a very strange kind of aura or some sort of a very charismatic feeling when I was around him. And I used to feel that this guy hates me, but I can't hate him. Like, I really tried my best to hate this guy because he hates me. But it never happened. And somehow I started having a very weird sort of attraction towards him. And as I was a teenager, I didn't even know how it feels like when you fall in love, right? So it took me a lot of time to understand that, oh, I'm actually in love with this person and who hates me from the bottom of his heart. So the whole scenario was very unconventional, very, very complex. That's how my journey started. And I could never give up on this thought. I always had this gut feeling that there is something with this guy. However, I try to move him away from my essence of my soul. I can't do that. It is just there. That whole process was very painful because he hated me when I was feeling so much for him. So first 5 to 6 years we did not speak to each other. Then when I was a little mature, I decided that at least I should share my feelings with him. There was so much of fear because I knew that if I do something like that, he's going to tell his friends, they are going to make fun of me, which was not very ideal scenario. So I decided, let me move out of the city. So I took admission for my master's. I moved away to Bombay and I wrote a letter to my twin flame from my hostel. And I have described this whole thing in my book, which I released. It's called My Secret Diaries. I used to write the diary to my twin flame. So in that book, all this story really unfolds in more details. So finally, I came out of this fear of how he will react or whatever it is. I just prayed to God and I sent a letter telling him that I really have this unconditional love towards him and I don't expect anything from him because I knew that he hates me. And I sent that letter to him. 2 years after that were worse because somewhere I was expecting that he will reply something or at least he will acknowledge my letter, but he didn't. So the next 2 years was worse. Like I would say one very intense dark night for me where I was challenged everything. Like I was angry, I was disappointed, I was feeling stupid, I was feeling rejected, abandoned, everything, every damn negative emotion in its most intense way I have faced in those 2 years while I was away. And another amazing thing about this whole story is that that time there was no internet. There was nothing that I could bank upon where I am able to. These days, you can easily stalk a person or send a message or see their social media or something. But those days, I'm talking about 1996. So, internet had just started. So, hardly anybody was using anything. There was no social media like Facebook or anything of that sort. So, I somehow thank that period because I was not having any damn thing to bank upon. No book, nobody to ask any question, no internet, no way to even see whether he's there or he's not there, what the hell he's doing in his life, nothing, absolutely nothing. Somehow that period taught me to turn inwards, and that's how I actually started seeking this internal guidance, and that's how I became so strong. I don't know if I had all these tools around me, probably my spiritual evolution wouldn't have happened the way it happened. So, my natural way to seek whatever I was seeking was just going inwards and understanding what God is trying to tell me. So, those years have been like really bad. After 2 years, obviously, he approached me and he told me that he got my letter and whatever. So there was a time when there was some sort of a harmony between us. We were not dating, we never dated each other, but there was an understanding and he understood something about what I was feeling. Though he clearly told me that he's not interested in being with me romantically or whatever it is because he was dating somebody else. I was not knowing anything about twin flames at that time. So I felt that okay, it's better for me to move on. So I moved on. I got married to a different person. He got married to a different person. And there was a time after I got married, almost 5 to 6 years, where there was no contact. Very less contact, like Happy Diwali or Happy New Year, something like that. But nothing happening. And then our journey again reignited after 6 to 7 years. After I delivered a baby daughter, and she was like around 2 years. Again, suddenly that energy of missing him, and I started feeling so guilty about that because now I was married and I was a mother of a baby, and I'm having this very intense energy of somebody who I already accepted that that person is not going to be in my life again started coming. And I think that from that second phase of my journey, everything was like really ignited and very fast. All the things developed very fast after that. I started receiving guidance. I started getting dreams. And all the time, I used to have this gut feeling that something used to tell me in my ears that your story is not over. There is something there with this person. And I always felt like pursuing that guidance that, okay, somebody is telling me that it is not over. That means I have to pursue this connection. So even when there was nothing to bank upon, when I knew that he's already married, I am also already married, something kept me going. Somewhere, some percentage of that belief was there in my heart that I don't have to give up on this person. There is something that we are supposed to do, or there is something very strong and significant. Because of that, I kept pursuing that connection, that I want to be in connection with this guy. And I made my efforts, and I again sent him a letter after a lot of to and fro because I was feeling so guilty that how will he will react if he receives a mail from me who is already married to somebody else, that I'm still thinking about you or I'm missing you. That's so bad. So I really struggled in that period. But somehow again my inner guidance kept me telling that you have to come over these fears and just say your truths. There is no other way over here. So somehow I really worked on myself. I gathered that courage. I again sent him a mail, but this time he replied immediately and kind of empathized with me, and he said, "I understand whatever." He didn't take it in any negative manner, but he said that as you know that we are both of us are married, it's better that we are not in touch. So he deleted, blocked me. So that was another very intense dark night. That this time he kind of reciprocated what I was saying, but he blocked the connection. That was another intense dark night for me. That now he's probably become more mature and wise and he's understanding the connection, but he still chooses to block me. So that was even more painful. And that time I actually got to know the term twin flames, because that time I was so much into the depth of the darkest period. I started searching everywhere, and somehow, by God's grace, I came across this term twin flames, and I was like, oh, this is something very similar to my experience. Though, even after coming to know that term, I was very skeptical about that term or that concept for next 2 years. That is it really that I'm experiencing something like that, or it is just some internet trend which I'm just getting fascinated. But I had 21 years of experience, the story unfolding in my life. So it was kind of easy for me to connect the dots backwards and would say that, oh no, this couldn't have happened so randomly. This couldn't have happened so randomly. So there were many incidences in my story which were real highlights, which would say that yes, it was a twin flame connection. So naturally, it was relatively easy for me to validate it. So it took me 2 years to completely settle into this acceptance that yes, I am on a twin flame journey and this is something not random. And then I would say after that, my real journey started. So that is after 2011. So 2011 to 2016, it was like a moderate type of spiritual awakening where I know that I'm a twin flame and I'm on some sort of a spiritual journey. 2016, I physically met my twin flame when we both were aware of the connection, both were accepting the connection. So most of our running chasing was kind of settled down. He was not denying anything in that, and he was kind of accepting that we have that connection. And he himself one day told me that I feel that we are one soul in two bodies and our connection is greater than any marriage. So that was the validation for me. We never said twin flames to each other, but what he shared with me was a clear validation coming from his side. So that was kind of a very, very big milestone in my life, that we met and we validated many, many things. And it's not random that after that meeting, everything shifted in my life. Again, another intense dark night started. My brother stopped talking to me. I had a lot of family issues. My husband came to know that I met my twin flame and he was very upset. And it was like we were almost divorced because he was so upset. And there was so every front, I lost a lot of money. I lost my clients in my career. So, career, my relationship with my husband, my guilt towards my daughter that I'm not able to pay attention to her because I'm into my dark night, my issues with my brother, my extended family. Take any aspect of human life, every aspect I was in minus. The only anchor to bank upon I had, that is the validation coming from my twin flame, that he accepts this connection. That was the only positive point that time in my life. Everything else was collapsing. So it was a very, very dense sort of a dark night. And that was the phase when I actually came out of the matrix. That's what I would say. Like, I stopped expecting things from other people. I stopped judging people. Many changes happened. I gave up on my career. I decided I don't want to pursue anything. I mean, that urge did not be like, it completely went out of my system. That, that's typical thing which you have, that, oh, you should be famous, you should be popular, you should get more business, you should get more rewards, recognition. All these desires just like mellowed down completely. And I was just on my own. And only thing I could bank upon is my twin flame. That's the only thing I was, banking upon. Then after that phase, again things started getting normal, and I processed most of the things, and I was better. I again started working. I again gained some trust from my husband. So, like, okay, there was a dip, but then again I got up. And then in 2021, my twin flame passed away due to heart attack. He knew it, that he had some heart condition, and he has very less time, but he did not tell me. So just before 2 months he passed away, he kind of indirectly prepared me for it by telling me that whether we, and that time the COVID period was going, so flights were not running, so there was no way for me to come to India or meet him in any way. So I think because of that, probably he didn't share anything with me, but he prepared me for him not being around with me physically. And he told me that we will meet wherever possible, either here or spiritually. And even if I'm here or if I'm not here physically, I'm always going to be with you. And I used to feel like, why is he talking like this? Like, maybe then I thought that, okay, maybe he's like really spiritually awakening so fast that he's talking something like this. But he was literally telling me these things because he knew that he has less time. So when the day came and when I got the news that he had a heart attack, I was absolutely shocked. Though my spirit guides have always helped me to cope up with this. So it was like I was so numb on that day. I didn't even cry. And I think the spirit has really helped me to deal with that shock. And then since his passing till today, I would say I have really been into a completely different zone, especially in terms of ascension. Whatever spiritual progress I had done till he was here, uh, I think his exit was also very much too much on the point. Like, when I started understanding what my soul mission is, that was the exact point he exited. So it's like his role was done. He was not needed anymore. So and somehow I have this guidance coming to me that his work physically with you was done. So his need was over. But now he's going to help you from the spirit. So if he was here, most of his time would go into the matrix and in the karmic contracts, which was not required. So he exited. And now he is there with his full soul energy, guiding me from the spirit or being with me. And that I completely understand now. I have fully accepted that. It took me a lot of time to even come to this acceptance, because we were standing at such a juncture where we were aligned with each other, we were in harmony with each other. In few months, probably even I could have invited him on my YouTube channel to speak. I mean, we were literally there, almost together, not conventionally, but mentally, energetically, spiritually, we were very much in harmony. And at that exact point, he exited. So that was like a real tragedy for me. Like, oh, so we have come so long way, and when the time of a reward came, he suddenly passed. So, but yeah, that acceptance is there, and there is so much to share when after he passed, how he started communicating with me. So that's like a different phase of the journey, which is very interesting and fascinating, I would say. Um, and I have this feeling also that there is so much to come. My guides always would say that the best day in your journey is yet to come. And this message I also received after he passed away, and I was very furious with my guides that uh, he's not even here physically, and you still have the audacity to tell me that the best day of my journey is yet to come. What does that mean? But then there is so much to understand when it comes to accepting somebody's death, that okay, it is just a transition from the physical to the spirit. And I have really experienced that nothing has changed, even the way I feel him, or the energy I feel, or the communication I have with him, it's really similar. Only thing is, it's not happening on WhatsApp anymore, it's happening telepathically, but it is happening, right? It's very profound. So what has actually changed is just his physical existence has transitioned into the spirit. That's it. There is no other difference that is there. And another acceptance, that as a human being, you have to accept that whatever you were anticipating as a human being, that something should unfold in the physical, you have to accept that, okay, that's at least in this timeline, it is not possible. And I don't even knock out other possibility, because I also have got this guidance that if we are ascending in a specific manner, in a specific speed, the veil between the spirit and the physical reality will start thinning. It is already thinning. So there will be some sort of a threshold where even when you are in the physical and somebody is in the spirit, you can really have a very normal communication and conversation with that person or the spirit being, even when you are in the physical body. And if that happens, then there is no need for grieving for somebody, right? So I always believe that that is possible. Why we have to limit our linear mind or our ego mind into a very narrow-minded thinking that, oh, somebody passed away. You don't have to. And I think maybe because of that, probably I chose as a soul this experience, that I had to hold this awareness that anything is possible anywhere. And by the way, this is a sentence that was told by my twin flame as one of his last dialogues, said to me that anything is possible anywhere. And I really take it as a motto of my spiritual journey, that yeah, I always need to remember that anything is possible anywhere. You don't have to limit yourself with your ego mind, because anything is possible anywhere. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's beautiful. Yeah, I can relate to definitely the part where a loved one crosses over. Because my kid crossed over and he's guiding me from the other side. When you talked about your soul's mission, and I understand that in Twin Flames, there is a soul mission for each of the twins, but they also have a mission together. And what I understand is he's guiding you from the other side. So, can you talk a little bit about how you connect with him and how does he guide you? Any examples where he has guided you on your mission together and something has happened?
First, I also want to talk about the mission part. When we say, or when we believe that you and your twin flame have a mission together, many people feel that that means you have to be in union, physical union, and then you will open some spiritual center, or you will start doing something together in the physical. Okay, that's one way of executing a mission. There are some twin flames who have that sort of a soul contact where they come together physically, and then it's a normal understanding of the matrix, that two people come together who are aligned with each other, and they start something together and they do something together. So there will be twin flames who will do that. But another deeper understanding to this is that if you are a twin flame and if you have a mission, your twin flame, whether that person is physically with you or not, whether you are in union with that person or not, or that person is physically around or not, they are an integral part of your spiritual mission. Because just question you, like if I question myself that if I had not met this person, would I be the same person the way I am today? Would I realize the same things the way I have realized today? No, not at all. Whatever I have become in my life, in whichever way it is because I met this person and this person brought a very, very significant transformation in my internal spiritual understanding or my spiritual journey as a soul. So he has always been an integral part of me and my soul mission. My soul mission would not activate if he was not around. So he energetically has always been a part of my soul mission. So when you say that you are on a soul mission, you don't have to knock away your twin flame. Energetically, that person has a very, very significant role to play. So when you say soul mission, and if you're a twin flame, it is always a mission together, even when you are executing it alone physically, right? So whatever you are doing, if you have a twin flame, your twin flame is an integral part of your soul mission, or any other twin flame who is alone. So anybody who feels that they are alone and they are only alone doing their soul mission without their twin flame, you have to stop thinking like that, because the moment you accept that your twin flame is with you when you are on your mission, you will have a different energy altogether. It's all about you acknowledging that your twin flame's energy is always there with you in your soul mission. So I always believe that. So that's the first part of the answer. And second thing, how he has been guiding me through the spirit is the way he communicates with me is he makes me aware of his presence through tapping me on my knees. So mostly he would tap on my right knee or even my shoulder or my crown or my third eye or anywhere. It's not like specifically on any body part, but most frequently it would be on my knees, both knees, and more significantly on my right knee. Why knee? I have no idea. I have really done a lot of research on this, like why exactly he's tapping me on my knees, and I have even asked him, but I haven't really got very significant answer to that. So I become aware when he taps me on my body, and there is another way of him making me aware is if I have closed my eyes. It only happens when I have closed my eyes. Either I'm doing meditation or I'm sleeping or I'm half awake state. There is some sort of electric jolt that comes behind my eyes. So it's like, somebody just flashed something for a fraction of a second and it went. How you will feel if you have closed your eyes, that that there was a light and it went off. That sort of a feeling comes from behind my ears. And it also has a slight jerk. So there is some sort of electric current or something like that. So when that happens, I understand that he's around. Initially, I kind of was skeptical that whatever is happening with me, is it really related to him, or I'm just, relating something else to his presence. But no. After revalidating it again and again, now I have come to this conclusion that okay, it only happens when he is there. He is making me aware that he's around. There were two incidences by which it actually got confirmed that he's the one who is doing it. First is that time I was learning theta healing, and we used to meditate every day to get into the theta state. So one day I did the meditation and I was truly in that state of, getting into the theta level. And while being in that state, I clearly saw a message. Prasad is here. I saw the letters coming like a light in front of me when I had closed my eyes. And when I saw those words, the jolt came and the taps also came. So somewhere I was very much rest assured that okay, this is about him, it's not about somebody else or anything else. So that was one scenario where it kind of got confirmed. And there was another similar incident like that. So yeah, I have got validations like that when it comes to this tapping thing. And if you say about guidance, I would receive certain thoughts or even some sort of lines like, you know, do this or don't do this, or not like yes and no kind of thing, but whatever it is, like I would have those as thoughts, and sometimes I would even receive them as words. Many times I receive messages through music. A lot of times I receive things from TV. This is very interesting. Many times I watch uh, some few interesting TV shows, not everything. If I'm asking some question to him, and if somebody in the serial is talking something specific, which could be the answer to my question, I will have that jolt, or I will suddenly have like a very strong tap on my knees. And then I pay more attention to the TV, like what is what is the person saying, and then it comes. For example, I can even give you an example. One day I was telling him in my meditation that when I die, I want you to come to receive me as the first person. I want to see you. Okay. That's like that is something that I really want from you. This was just a thought. It came in my mind in my meditation. And I forgot about it. And then in the evening, I was watching something, a TV was on, and it was in Hindi. And one character says to another character that हम आपकी ये ख्वाहिश जरूर पूरी करेंगे. And suddenly there was this very big jolt in my knee, and like I was like, what happened? And then I realized that, oh, okay, this sentence was being said. हम आपकी ये ख्वाहिश जरूर पूरी करेंगे. And then I suddenly realized that, oh, this is like the answer to what I was thinking in the morning. And I smiled like, okay, so this is how he communicates. And it's so evident, like I have stopped doubting it now. Initially, after he passed, there was a time when I used to doubt and question everything, that is it really him, or I am hallucinating, or I am imagining. But now I understand how he communicates. And so this is one way that he communicates. And another thing, I also do it intentionally. Like when I do this whole meditation of being into the theta state, I would take a notepad and a pen and I would start writing with setting this intention that whatever you want to say, let me know. Or even I would write a question on my notepad and the answer will come. So, but I don't do it too frequently, the writing part. But I do it and it works. So, yeah, that's another way of communicating, which is also interesting. Yeah.
You have mentioned about union, and so you mentioned that the harmonious reunion, and I'm saying reunion because it always is like at some level you are united, but then 3D you get separated many times, and then you come
Yeah.
together, and then you again get separated. So this is like it's the journey itself is challenging of twin flames. So the harmonious reunion, how does it look like? Like for some people, it may be easy because what I have seen globally that there are some twin flames who are married to each other, but it may not be always the case. In that case, what does a harmonious union look like?
Okay, it's a very important and interesting question because I think a lot of people have this thing in their mind. And what guidance I have received about this is, uh, as human beings, we try to templatize everything, right? Like marriage, how marriage should look like. So, constitution of marriage has a certain rules, certain set of rules, do's and don'ts. Like if you're a wife of somebody, then you're not supposed to do this. Or if you're a husband, then you are supposed to do something like this. If you don't follow a certain set of rule book that the society has set for a constitution of marriage, the marriage will fail. So there is a certain template that we have to follow in a relationship template of a marriage. Same holds true for a template of sister and brother, your sibling, or your uh, offsprings, or your parents. Every relationship has a certain template, a certain unsaid rule book that everyone follows. When it comes to a twin flame experience, why we are going through a twin flame experience? Because we are ascending, we are increasing our awareness, and we are here to break the template that are set, that keep us in the vibration of fear and control and insecurity and whatever. So when it comes to twin flame union, most people look at it as a template, that oh, it should, like when twin flames are in union, then it should be like 1 2 3 4, like all these parameters need to be fulfilled. But it is not like that. So most of the people are, what they are missing out to understand when it comes to the process of union is that union is not a template. We are actually doing other way around process, that we are breaking out of the cage that we have formed around each other as human beings, and we are breaking away as a free bird. So when you are breaking away as a free bird, you don't templatize it. So a union can look very different for every couple. It is up to you how you manifest your union. It's like fancy dress. If you take competition, part in a competition, it you decide what dress or what costume you want to wear and how you want to look on the stage. It's up to you. You go and everybody is in a different costume. Union is exactly like that. Like you create your union, whatever you want to create in that union. So it's a very free kind of a canvas. It's like, you have given a free canvas, and as an artist, you can do whatever you want to do on that canvas. You are not questioned. You are not forced to follow a certain template. So for some people, now very less people are there in union physically. Okay. Energetically, emotionally, mentally, there are many people who are twin flames who are aligned with each other, but physically people are not yet able to, because we are still in the denser energy and denser frequency. We are still breaking away from those things. But there are people who are couples who are actually staying as a conventional couple, but somewhere I feel those people also who are true twin flames and who are couples, they will also not have a lot of conventionality in their relationship. They will also explore many different things over there. So somewhere this whole thing of pinning the person down, that oh, you have to do this if you are my spouse, or all those things will go away when it comes to. So somewhere I feel many people who claim that they are in union are not really in union. They feel, I mean, they are just physically together. There is a lot that they have to process. This is what I feel. I don't knock out this thing where are twin flames who are physically together, who are genuine twin flames, and they are paving their union forward in many, many different ways. I had also spoken to you earlier about, like, there is one couple. I don't want to take their name because I haven't asked their permission, but there is a couple in India who works together to teach about fourth dimension, and they release souls that are stuck in fourth dimension. They feel that that's their solution. They have a 20-year age gap between them. They are not married to each other. They are not conventionally living a romantic life with each other. But they are 100% in physical harmony, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual alignment. They are aware, they are spiritually awakened, they understand their soul mission, and they are spreading that knowledge and that light around them. I would call that as a classic example of a union. That it's not like a specific thing that oh, you have to be romantic partners. This is your physical linear mind that is templatizing a certain belief system into and creating some expectation out of it, but not necessarily. I would say they have created a texture of their own union and they are living that union. It's not necessary that you have to replicate that. You can have your own way of being in union. You decide how you want to do it. And I think that's the true way to live ascended life, not getting stuck into any sort of a matrix belief system or a rule book, and create your own union for yourself. So does that answer your question?
Yes. At the same time, what I understand is that there are soul contracts, and when you are on a twin flame journey, you have a soul contract with your twin flame, and your journey may be unique. And some of them may have a soul contract to get actually physically married and be here in as a married couple, just as a role model for the collective. What happens when you break that soul contract, or when you refuse to adhere to the soul contract and choose somebody else rather than your twin flame?
Okay, it's a little complex scenario, because you can't really generalize many things, because everybody comes from a different soul agenda, or even the soul journey of every soul is different. So you won't be able to generalize this thing specifically. But somewhere I feel that if your twin flame is choosing to be with somebody else, that means they do also have a soul contract with that person, which could be a karmic contract, maybe some sort of a karmic release, or something that is unfinished. Only then the person will be diverted to another person. So you don't have to blame the person who is choosing another person, because all those things are not random. There is definitely something that is unfinished with that specific person, and that's why it doesn't take place. Or another reason for something like this to happen is that you have not finished. The person who is left alone because their twin flame chose somebody else, for you there is a time to be alone. You are not yet ready to be with your twin flame, because either there is some sort of a soul work that you have to finish on your own. You can't be together unless you finish that or realize that. Um, or you release something. So either it's about karmic contracts that you have to release, or there is something from your soul lessons that you have to understand or realize or accomplish. Before that frequency is not going to take place. So either of it, either it's about you, or it is about them, or it is about both of you, which is not yet getting aligned, and that's why it will happen. That's the only thing. So
Yeah, so the divine timing is what I understand is that there is a divine masculine and a divine feminine in twin flame, and they may not be necessarily man and woman. These are principles or essence. But typically, what has been seen is that the divine masculine is the runner, running away from the relationship, and the divine feminine is the chaser. That's the runner chaser dynamics. And that happens because divine feminine awakens first, and the upper chakras get awakened in the divine feminine, whereas the lower chakras get awakened in the divine masculine, and then in alignment, when they come together, they meet in the heart chakra. But till that time, this runner chaser dynamic continues. So what can you guide in terms of how to end that runner chaser dynamic?
okay, oh my god, this is very difficult to answer. Okay, but one thing I want to say about runner chaser is that um, even I used to feel it for the most of the time in my journey, that chaser is a role or runner is a role, but it's not a role. So it's not like I am the one, if I am the divine feminine, that I am going to be the chaser of all time, and my divine masculine is always going to be the runner. No, running and chasing is a state of mind. So both can run at the same time. That also happens, right? Like I have seen many twin flame couples that the divine feminine thinks that she's the chaser, but actually she's running big time from so many things in her journey. And somewhere I feel that this misunderstanding that people have, that one is the all-time chaser and another is all-time runner, kind of drifts them away from the true understanding that, okay, whoever you are, whether you are a masculine or a feminine, you can run and you can chase. Both things can happen for both of them. And how did I realize this? I used to feel that, oh, I am the divine feminine and I'm the one who is chasing, and I'm like ready, I'm just ready. It is just that my divine masculine is running. The moment he comes, we will be in union, it's that simple. And I was in Dubai at that time, and I used to have this misunderstanding that I'm ready and I'm the chaser and things like that. And my spirit guides have really slapped me in such a big way to break that understanding of mine. I came to India. I contacted my twin flame. He said, I can't meet you because the things are different and whatever. No, let's not meet. Basically, complete running. So I was very disappointed and I accepted that, okay, we are not going to meet. But I just prayed to God that if he's not able to meet me or doesn't want to meet me, at least make me see him somewhere, you know. And somehow that prayer just came to me. I did not even know where he has shifted his house. I didn't even know which area of the town he is living. But somehow, by whatever, I won't call it a coincidence, I landed next to his house without knowing that he stays there. And I happened to see him just 3 feet away. He was standing 3 feet away from me without knowing that I'm there. And I was just stand still, like, oh my God, like really my prayers have been answered. And he's standing here 3 feet away. And the ground under my feet was gone. Like I was so afraid to even stand there. I mean, I used to hope that I will meet him and I will see him and I will talk to him one day for months. And all I'm doing in my life is to dream that I will meet him. And when he was standing 3 feet away from me, I did not have a courage to call him. So I started looking, for something so that I can hide. So I saw a tree and I went behind the tree and I was staring at him from behind. And then when I went home, I was like, such an insane thing I have done. And that time I realized that I'm not even having the courage to call him. Forget about anything else. Forget about union or whatever big things we are thinking of. I'm not even having a courage to call him if he is standing next to me. That means I'm in the state of running. I'm not chasing him. There is something in my heart that I'm not ready to face him. Right? And it was so much on my face. And then I realized that no, I'm not chasing him. I'm running big time. Then I started introspecting, like, what the hell? Why am I running and from what I'm running? And then when I started to introspect, I came up with so many issues. I really made a big list of it. I was afraid that I'm not in my breast scenario. So what will he think about me? I'm little fat, my weight is more, or I'm not in no good, my hairstyle is not good. I mean, all these, looks issues, weight issue, body shaming, I don't know. Like all that part was also there. And then there was also other thing that he will reject me, or he will abandon me, or he will not like me, or he will not like that I'm going and speaking to him. So many thoughts that started coming in my mind. And then I realized that no, I'm running from all these issues. I'm actually a runner. I'm not a chaser. I think that I am a chaser, but I'm also running from the connection. And that was a big shift in my journey, because then I accepted that, oh, all these issues, unless I work on all these issues, I'm not going to attract him in my life. So all these are like hindrances, big hindrances. So I always want to very significantly point out to all those people who feel that they are a chaser. No, you don't have to label yourself as a chaser. Just remember that chasing and running is a mindset and it fluctuates. So sometimes you can hold a chasing energy in some ways, but you can also hold running energies at the same time. So you have to keep introspecting yourself, that is there anything that you're running from? Because there is something, then you have to work on it. But if you consider and label yourself as a chaser, you are completely kind of ignoring what you need to work on, because you don't consider yourself as a runner in the first place. So that's very important for every twin flame to understand. So that's the first part of your answer. And what else you had asked? I just
How do you end this dynamics?
yeah. So um, if you really ask my understanding how I was able to end this whole runner chaser thing, is the key word I would say is acceptance and no judgment. And it takes a lot of time to come to that. It's not easy to come to a state where you accept your twin flame the way he is. Like, okay, he's not accepting you. Okay, are you able to accept that he's not accepting you? And being able to put yourself in their shoes and not judging them, that they also are coming, they also have some sort of a soul journey. The way they react, they have different types of wounds than you, they have different belief system, they have different challenge, they have different types of fears than you would, they have different types of insecurity. So when it comes to that person, are you able to stand completely in their shoes and have that empathy and release whatever judgment you have for them? That, oh, he didn't wish me birthday, so you get annoyed, or he didn't reply me, so you get upset. Are you able to put yourself in their shoes and understand that why he's not doing what he's not? Once you start coming into that zone where you stand in the non-judgmental place and accept them unconditionally, whatever, that time you come into the state of staying at one place. You won't hold running or chasing energy. But it takes, I think the whole journey is all about learning that. It's not easy to, because saying it is very easy that, oh, accept and stay in non-judgmental zone. It just takes 2 seconds for me to say this. But to truly come to that place of true non-judgment and true acceptance, that I just hold my twin flame with 100% love in my heart. I hold space for that person till he comes to that state where I want that person to be or realize or whatever it is. I hold that person without judgment in my heart, and I don't expect anything till they really feel certain thing from their side. It requires a lot of faith, a lot of patience. I mean, I would definitely say that these are the 3 pillars of twin flame journey: your faith in yourself, in your twin flame, in the divine, your patience. Patience will come if you have faith. So faith is first, patience, and of course the love you have for you. Because that's the, if you don't love the person, then forget about faith and patience. You don't need to have it. But when you love the person and you know that there is so much there in your heart for that person, it is kind of, it works as a fuel. It gives you the strength to be patient. And then the other side is the faith, that okay, you have faith in yourself and the God and your spirit guides and whatever. So these 3 things would actually become, these 3 things become a pillar of your journey, where whatever up and down, whatever turmoil, whatever dark night, it will give you the strength to keep going in the journey. So yeah, so faith, patience, and love. And to end the chaser runner thing is about acceptance and non-judgment. And I think that comes when, if I want to say the same thing from the Kundalini perspective, it's like you snap out of your 3 lower chakras and you start operating from your heart center. That's when you are able to do it.
So basically, acceptance and surrendering. This is mainly from divine feminine perspective, that holding that non-judgmental space, that okay, he is not responding. But at the same time, what I understand is the inner journey and the inner work that the divine feminine has to do is in terms of self-love and self-worth. And whereas the divine masculine has to work on ego death, or letting go of the pride and the conventional belief systems from the society. And that's how their journeys are. But when I look back at the mythological references of twin flames, and we always have been given these examples of Shiva Shakti, for example. And then at the same time, we have such a patriarchal and male dominated society that even though they say that Shiva and Shakti are the same, but at some place they will say that, okay, no, still Shiva is Shakti's guru, and somewhere Shiva is higher than the Shakti. And there is nowhere in any of the spiritual concepts anywhere in the world that men and women or feminine and masculine are treated equal even when they start there from there as equal. But there is no, I would say, breaking of this pattern of ego having that concept or working on that inner work for masculine of letting go of that ego and pride of or for example when they don't contact the divine feminine, that is also somewhere whether it's they feel superior or they feel not enough, both are from ego perspective. And if that needs to be broken, this entire thing, then what do you suggest, how can they do that?
Okay, now when it comes to this Shiva Shakti principle or concept, somewhere I feel that it is the kind of knowledge we have right now is somehow diluted, because even in our Puranas or Bhagavad Puran, or I don't want to name everything, but uh, if you want, I can actually make a list of it, but not now. I'll have to refer to certain references. But there are ancient texts where I truly feel that they are diluted. They are not really coming from the true place where somebody who wrote those or who rewrote those scriptures has been coming from this patriarchal belief system, where it got reflected that, oh, the woman has to do this and somewhere she's inferior than a man. And in many Shiva Shakti scripts, also somewhere I feel that it has reflected like that. I personally believe that the true understanding of Shiva Shakti is not about glorifying the Shiva and, uh, putting the hierarchy between Shiva and Shakti. That's not what it is. But in many scriptures, it seems like that, where the Shiva is more glorified and the Shakti is pursuing him. So I don't resonate with that, and maybe many people might not resonate with what I'm saying or might get triggered. But I feel that no, those scriptures are diluted. I don't believe those scriptures. You really want to see it from the energy perspective. There is no hierarchy like that. That's what I feel when it comes to the Shiva Shakti thing. And if you truly understand even the yin yang kind of thing, the other cannot exist without the other existing in a certain way. So it's like a complete balance of two polarities. So how can you make it genderized, and how can you make it like one side glorified than the other? So it is not true. That's what I believe. So if given a chance, I would really rewrite the whole thing when it comes to the whole concept of Shiva Shakti. In some places, not all the places, there are some certain places where it is correct, but in many cases it is not. And somehow, unfortunately, I even see in some twin flames who worship Shiva, who say that, oh, see Shiva in my twin flame. But the whole energy that they hold is this, that Shiva is the glorified man, and I'm the one who is, having going into penance and doing fasting and, like completely surrendering to this masculine principle. That's not true.
Exactly.
I don't resonate with that, and you don't have to worship Shiva like that. That's not what it is. This is what I think.
Yeah, traditionally, it's always like a woman learns from a man. Man is the teacher for woman, but in twin flames, it's not like that. They are both teaching each other, and they both have to learn from each other.
And many times, the way I receive spirit guidance comes also in terms of very interesting analogies and visuals. So for something like this, I had received this particular visual of a pedal of a cycle. That there are two pedals. You are riding a cycle and there are two pedals. Both these, you can't say that this
one.
right side pedal is greater than the other one.
Yes.
There are two pedals of the cycle, and unless both play their role, your cycle can't move ahead. It's exactly the same. Like twin flames will have that role. So you can't genderize that particular energy or that whole thing. And I think there is a huge need for a lot of females, especially with men. It's not an issue. Men are not stuck in this thing so much. This is what I feel. So many sessions I do about when people who are stuck in their understanding. So many females are wanting to have a very conventional relationship with their masculine. And most of the matrix twin flames who are not awakened, who are masculine, they don't want to get married. They want to be a free spirit. They don't want to commit. They don't want to. They are their own boss, and they don't want any sort of a binding or pinning down. And somewhere I feel that even though we say that they are unawakened and they are not understanding anything, one thing as a soul they are understanding very clearly, to bring the female out of the traditional belief system. Because I feel that most of the females are stuck in the traditional belief systems rather than the matrix. Even if they are in the matrix, even if they are not awakened, somehow subconsciously they are guided so well in this that they are actually teaching a female to come out of this expectation that they have to commit to her, they have to be loyal with her, they have to be available. Why you have to make a man available to you all the time, to praise you all the time, to validate his love all the time, um, or all these things? So much of a female insecurity, which most of the divine feminine are holding, third party scenarios, or this insecurity that, oh, he didn't say good morning to me, what's the big deal about it? I mean, can't you just feel in your heart that the person loves you? Why you need validation? And why it happens? Because if you see that female soul journey, that person has really gone through a lot of third party scenarios, men betraying her. So I'm not blaming the female. Why they are feeling what they are feeling? Because of their past traumas, past wounds, that they feel that their man will leave them, or they abandon, or they are not available. But this is the opportunity for that female to become aware of those issues and to work on those issues. If that twin flame starts becoming available to them, they would never address all these issues because they will never come on surface. So this whole thing is very well designed, that your twin flame is not available to you. Their soul is very well guiding them that, okay, you are not supposed to say yes to this female right now, don't be with her. Because if they are available, then you are gone. You are again in your comfortable life. There is no ascension for you. But just because they are unavailable to you, you are forced to address all these things that are keeping you in the denser frequency. That your insecurity, your wound, your trauma, your feeling that the man doesn't love you. Overcome that and become your true divine feminine self. How that is going to take place? Only when your man is not there. If that person is there, you are going to always expect that he should be there, he should pamper you, and he should, all that old thing again is coming up. And most of the matrix twin flame, even when they are not aware spiritually, they are facilitating this journey for the females. So this is a notion in most of the females that I am the one who has to work and the man is having his life into some glory. No, the whole thing is designed. So you don't have to compare that how bad you are, like how much pain you are in it. Your man is like having some nice life with somebody. That's not the scenario. It's not the true picture. There is something much deeper to that. So, um, I have a lot to say when it comes to this patriarchal notion that females hold. That I am the one who is suffering and I am the. This also we have to release. We are not like poor victims, females who are looking for a man who abandoned us or who left us. No, you have to come into your own power and understand what the man is showing you.